saying do 150?
Huh?
Did it do 150?
This one?
You got 150 on there, see?
Yeah, no, it won't do 150. It'll top out at like 135 or so.
You had it up there?
Yeah, it'll top out like 135. It won't go to 150. It's too much. So as you guys kind of saw right there when I was interacting with the locals and where my actual bike was parked, that is basically how my bike is parked all the time when I'm running around here, because there's no like parking lots or anything that you can really go into unless they're like paid or they're restricted, living in this actual area that I actually live in the Chicagoland area. So let's talk about why I chose the SV650. I mean, that is probably a pretty good example of why I actually chose this bike. So when you look at it in the area that I actually live in, really there's limited places for parking and everything, and so a lot of times I am street parking at these meters or wherever they have it on the side. I'm not in a parking lot. And that has to do with, and that lends itself to a couple of different problems. So my thing was trying to choose a street bike, and I needed something that I would be okay with parking in those circumstances where people like bump into you and all this other shit and possibly knock my actual bike down. And it happens like a lot. Like, it doesn't happen to me. It hasn't, luckily, cross my fingers, it hasn't happened to me. But it could, because even when I go home, you guys will find this crazy. When I go home, my condo building, there is no parking lot there. And like, I don't know, over 100 people live in it or more. Live in it. It basically takes up a whole block. So yeah, probably way more than 100 people live in it. But the condo building has no parking lot. You have to park your shit on the side of the street, including cars and everything else. And that's where my bike sits at night, on the side of the actual freaking street. So that's where it lives. Hold on a second, let me let this, oh, this person go, let me by. Thank you. So that's where it lives. So I had to go ahead and make a choice and trying to find a bike that fits my environment, and that's really where I'm going at with this actual video here. And it kind of reminded me because it was something that 633 Yusef mentioned, so I figured I'd go ahead and talk about it. I gave him a little reply, but I guess I'll go and extrapolate a little bit more. One is that issue. I gotta make sure that one, my bike, I'm okay with it being tipped over, that it's financially stable or financially reasonable for me to actually have the bike that I do have, that I don't need to care if it gets knocked over or whatever from someone parallel parking and hitting it or clipping the wheel while they're driving by or whatever while they're pulling out. Other thing is, I gotta be okay that it's not too flashy because I don't want it to get stolen. So that is another thing of why I have this SV650 naked. Now if I get the sport model, that could attract some kind of attention to me that I really don't want to have my bike actually get, especially in the middle of the night. So having a bike that looks pretty much a standard, a naked bike, most thieves are kind of just like, whatever, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna steal this bike because it doesn't look like a flashy super sport or a chromed out Harley Davidson cruiser. So that's one other thing. The other thing of trying to pick a bike that fit my environment was this right here. I'm sitting in traffic, and this is not even bad traffic. This is normal, like actual, almost kind of light traffic, because it's probably gonna open up here. But I needed something that was reliable enough that would be able to take this type of traffic abuse where I'm actually sitting here. So there are particular bikes that you go out there and you look for, and you can read them up and research in the forums, that overheat a lot. And this one really doesn't. Like, it's pretty much good. It doesn't run hot at all. Maybe it has to do with whatever the V-twin design they did and the cooling system or whatever, but it's fine for whatever particular purpose that it actually runs. And the other thing about traffic is that I'm always stuck in this kind of stuff. So I don't really need a bike that's gonna haul super ass to get off the line and do stuff, because I'm not gonna need to be able to use it because I'm just gonna hit traffic again. I need something that has relatively good low end and mid-range torque, which this SV650 actually offers me. Let me go ahead and just wait a second. We're going to get to some lights and we're going to start going, and then I'll start talking about some of the other reasons why I chose the SV650 to fit my riding environment. And I kind of, you know, recommend that to everyone else, is to buy a bike that fits your actual I can't talk. Fits your actual riding environment. Don't buy a bike that has all these different features and abilities that you're not going to be able to use. I think that's a smart thing to do, especially if you're, you know, going to be using it daily, or even on the weekend warrior type thing. I mean, for example, well, I guess we don't really have to wait because we're kind of going a little bit, but having a super sport, I don't really have that many opportunities if I had a super sport to actually hit the amount of power that I needed to. So going back to the power band, I can't really rev it out very high to get it up there, because it's just not available to me. Like I'm never going to be able to really access that part of the power band very, very often, especially with these low speed limit roads that are mostly out here. Unless I get onto the interstate, I'm not going to be able to do anything with that additional high-end power, which is why I'm kind of, you know, chose the SV650. It's got good low-end power. And the other part to actually talk about, as you guys are going to see once I actually get out of this actual traffic jam, and while I'm sitting here in this, I can tell you that the seating position on the actual SV650 is pretty comfortable. I mean, I'm not hunched over on top of the tank. This is basically it. This is as much as I get hunched over on this actual bike. Handlebars are kind of raised a little bit, so it's not bad. Not bad for commuting and being in this type of traffic. And here's the type of long stretch that I may see every once in a while if I get lucky, is this type of break. It's basically just a break in the traffic. And around this area, so for most of the time, I'm driving straight. The roads do not twist. And if I actually drive around in the whole entire state of Illinois, they're all straight roads. There are no twisties. There's none of that kind of stuff. So I don't even, at this sense, even need a super sport, because I'm not going to be exercising the actual abilities of that suspension. Am I saying this bike has great suspension? No, it does not. It has like kind of medium, like soft type of suspension. It's okay for a little bit of spirited run, but it's not it's not confidence enduring, where you want to go ahead and lean way the hell over and drag knee and all that kind of stuff, and it's not going to turn direction for you extremely quickly, but it's still pretty flickable because it's very, very light, for the chance that you get a little tiny curve. But for the most part, this is it. Even if these roads were out here and I actually left this part of the city and hit the countryside, it would just all be straight roads for miles and miles and miles throughout the whole entire state. So there are no twisties for me to actually hit. Other part that I want to talk about, it's mostly farmland. There are very few forests, and the forests that they have, there's no trail on them. So I can't, man. I can't justify going and getting a supermoto because it would just be a basically underpowered street bike, and there's no reason for me to have a supermoto because of that. There's no instance where I would actually be able to go to off-road because there's no trails around here. There's none. I'm not going to be able to use it for that particular purpose at all. I know there are a couple people out there, it's like, you know, I look and I really jealous of Jake, where he lives around the outskirts of Texas, around, I think it's like outside Dallas or something, might be his closest area, I don't know. But even in that city, there's lots of places where you can just go out and there are trails that you can just like ride through with nothing on them. And same thing with moto tripping. He lives in Tampa. I used to live in Tampa. I lived in Tampa for like over 10 years. And yes, there are, that place is just like suburban sprawl. And there are little areas that you can go into the forest and ride around. And Florida has tons of those type of places that you can actually do that in. And that is freaking awesome. But here, nah, can't do it, man. Can't do it. It's just this forever and ever and ever. It's interstate, straight interstates, straight country road highways, and then this garbage everywhere. So really, yeah, I've probably been rambling on for a little bit now. So one, you know, the reason I picked this is that this bike fits my urban environment, my riding environment. And for you guys that are riding, I think that's something that you guys should definitely think about, is buying a bike that fits whatever your actual needs are going to be and what you're going to be using it for. I wouldn't buy a bike that's not going to fit that. So I had a couple of things to think about. So to recap, one, I needed to look at the cost and make sure that was cool, because in case my bike gets wrecked or whatever, or knocked over, in the chance that I'm parking and people are parallel parking next to me, they knock it over, it's not a big loss. Parts are easy to fix, and you know, it's whatever, it's an old bike and it was pretty cheap. Same thing as if it got stolen. Okay, I got the first theft deterrent, since it's always outside parallel parked on the street. First line of defense is that it doesn't look like an expensive flashy super bike. It doesn't look like a flashy Harley cruiser with chrome everywhere. People are going to basically leave this bike alone for the most part. Some may still take it. There's no guarantee that they're not going to take it. Some may still go ahead and come up and actually take it. But if they do, guess what? I'm only out like $2,000. So that's okay. I mean, that's all right. The other part, it's reliable. To recap, I can go in stop and go traffic. It's reliable here. It's never actually overheated or done anything like that to me. And it's comfortable to ride. You know, you gotta sit on the seat for quite a while to actually go places. For a lot of times you're going 15 miles, that's gonna take you like 45 minutes to go 15 miles in this type of shit. So know that you need something that's kind of comfortable and easy to flick around and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I chose this, man. I feel like it's a good fit for me as an actual city bike. So I would like to hear from you guys what bike you have, the type of environment that you actually live in, and how your bike actually fits that. And you can go ahead and just tell me how. And if you guys are coming into riding and new riding and you're trying to pick out your first bike, think of that portion as well. Or if you're trying to buy your next bike, think about it. Think about where you live, how you're going to use the bike, if it's actually going to fit the environment and your actual lifestyle, what you're actually using the bike to be. So that's all I got for today, guys. Go ahead and leave a comment below, like the video if you dug it, if you didn't, whatever comments that you want to give me, go ahead. But until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.